Welcome to Personality Part 2. Um, draw this on your notes, pause the video, or if it's on Edpuzzle, I will. Okay, so part of personality is how much control do you believe that you have over your universe? Locus in Latin means place of control. Now notice the direction of the arrows. If you have an internal locus of control, you feel that you are in control of your universe. I make things happen. I can determine my future. Okay, so you believe that your efforts will pay off. Okay, so if you study, you believe that you can pass the next test. Or if you keep both hands on your steering wheel, you won't crash the car and you pay attention. However, if you have an external locus of control, you believe things happen to you. There's nothing you can do about your future. Luck, bad luck, destiny, astrology. Jesus, take the wheel. Now I'm not saying that there are some people who want to have so much control over their lives that sometimes it's good for them to relinquish control. And that is a benefit of believing in astrology or religion or something like that. There are benefits to that. However, if your life is not going well for you, and sometimes you need to take responsibility for your own mental health. If you say fail a test, then it's probably better for you to say, you know what, I'm going to study harder next time and I'm going to pass the next one. Okay. Or you keep dating people who treat you poorly. And sometimes you need to look in the mirror and say, you know what, here's my part in it. I need to do better next time. But if you just keep telling yourself that things happen to you, oh, well, that's just the stars. Oh, that's just destiny. Oh, that's just karma. Then you're not going to have any kind of control. Anyway, so internal, you take control. Okay, I can make things, I can do good things for myself. External, oh, well, shit happens. Okay. That's it. That's locus of control. Okay. All right. Moving right along. All right. So let's try this question. You read it. The answer is external locus of control. If you just say it's all a matter of dumb luck anyway, and you don't take the time to do well, if you're going to do a job interview, you need to research the company. You need to look at their mission statement. You need to tailor your resume for that job that you are seeking. Otherwise, you're just leaving it up to dumb luck. Okay. All right. Moving right along. All right. Go ahead and do this one. I'm not saying it's easy. The answer is all right. So if you chose A, that would be external locus of control. However, D is more of the student is taking charge and being in control of her universe. Okay. All right. Moving right along. All right. So write this down. So there are different perspectives of how we look at personality. The trait perspective was basically that traits are stable and that you can measure them with certain kinds of tests like the Big Five. The social cognitive perspective is a different perspective, and it may not contradict, it's just a different way of looking at things. The social cognitive perspective, just think social as people, cognitive means thinking. It's basically how our personality is influenced by our thoughts and our environment. Okay? Okay. All right, moving right along. So write this down, draw it on your notes. So under this social cognitive theory, you have something called reciprocal determinism. When you see the word reciprocal, think of like reciprocity, receive. Reciprocal means like I give and then somebody gives back to me. So if somebody gives me a compliment, then I'm going to give a compliment back to them so I can reciprocate. All right. Determinism, think of the word determined. Determinism means that the destiny is set. All right. Like you've got no choice. So if somebody says bad things are going to happen to you no matter what, and I'm like, don't be so deterministic. I know it's a big word. I'm trying to teach you the word. All right. So the idea is that, and if you ever go into therapy, they will bring this up. It's like your actions, that's your behavior, can affect your environment. And your environment can affect how you think about things. But how you think about things and how you behave can affect your environment. It could be a good or a bad thing. Okay. So let's say you're really nice to people. Okay. That's your behavior. And that's going to affect your mood. It's going to cause you to be in a good mood. And then you being in a good mood is also going to affect your behavior. It like keeps going back and forth. Notice the arrows are going in both directions. Okay. And then when you're nice to people, people are also going to be nice back to you. People are going to think, wow, what a nice guy or what a nice girl. And then people being nice to you is going to affect your thoughts about them. The negative can work too. If you're a jerk, that's going to affect your behavior, and then you're going to say ugly things to people. And then when you say ugly things to people, people are going to look at you differently, and they are not going to be as nice back to you. And then when people are not as nice to you, that's going to affect your mood. And then you're going to have a bad outlook toward other people. That's going to affect your behavior, and it's going to affect how people think of you. And then it creates this cycle. You're a jerk because people are acting like dicks to you, but people are acting like dicks to you because you're being a jerk, and it's going to affect your behavior. So it could be good or it can be bad. Okay. I mean, this is real stuff here. This is not just theory. This is real stuff. So if Taylor is friendly, let's say that Taylor is friendly, just theoretically, that influences her behavior. She talks a lot. That influences her environment. She's more likely going to go out and interact with other people. And then her environment influences her behavior. I'm not saying that it's easy to change this, but if you do, it can affect everything. That's why faking it till you make it can be a good thing. It can really change everybody's outlook on you, and then you have a change yourself. And it'll seem easy once it gets going. Okay. All right. Write this down. Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is similar to confidence. It simply means that you believe that your efforts will have a positive result. Okay? So I teach government sometimes, so I like to think of voter efficacy. If you believe that your voting or your protesting will not make a difference, then you are less likely to do so. That means you have low self efficacy. However, if you believe that protesting or voting or writing a letter to your congressman will make a difference, then you have high self efficacy. Same thing with studying. It doesn't matter how much I study, it won't matter. I'm going to fail anyway. If you believe that your efforts will not make a difference and will not result in some sort of change, you have low self efficacy. But if you say, if I study for my test for an hour and it will make a difference and I will increase my average because of my efforts, then you have high self efficacy. Okay. So it is similar to confidence, but it's like it leads to a specific self result. Okay. All right, let's try some questions. You read that. All right, the answer is self efficacy. Okay. All right, moving right along. Because Alicia believes that her efforts will pay off with a specific desirable result. All right, read this. The answer is reciprocal determinism. Horgus's efforts and affect his environment affects him. Okay. All right. Moving right along. All right, read this. High self-efficacy. Okay. The answer is, all right, so effort will lead to better grades. The effort leads to a specific desirable result. That's high self-efficacy. All right, moving right along. Okay. This question, anyway, go ahead and try to answer this. Personality, the answer is stability. Okay. The idea is that, and this question probably should have been earlier in the last video, but the idea is trait theory says that your traits are stable, meaning that if I'm introverted, and when I'm 30, I'm probably going to be introverted when I'm 50. Okay. There are some traits that change when you get older, like conscientiousness tends to go up. Openness to new experience might go down a little bit, but overall it's pretty stable. Okay, but that's trait theory. All right, moving right along. All right, so this is a typical question on the AP exam, and they're going to ask you to look at data. Now, the mode, you should know this from middle school math, so I'm just going to go ahead and remind you. The mode is the most common datum, number in a set of data. So which one of these is the most common? The answer is 7. There's 3 of them. It's that easy. The median would be in the middle, which would probably also be 7 looking at it. And then the range would be 10 minus 3, which would be 7. All right, anyway. All right, moving right along. It's not that funny. All right, moving right along. Okay, so write this down. So here's another perspective. So far, we've covered the trait perspective, the social cognitive perspective, and now I'm talking to you about the psychodynamic perspective. The psychodynamic perspective says this, that your unconscious mind is the most important part of how you are. Unconscious. Notice I underlined it. Unconscious. So what makes you who you are? Something in the unconscious mind, your unconscious sexual drives, your unconscious biological drives, stuff that happened to you in childhood and that you have pushed down into your memories that you don't remember. I'm not saying that I agree with this perspective. I'm just trying to teach you what it is. When you see the word psychodynamic or psychoanalytic, think about the unconscious mind or childhood. This is not a modern day theory. This is very outdated. This is what they believed back in the 20s, 30s, 40s. Okay, earlier than that, really, and I mean 1920s. Okay, Sigmund Freud is the founder of the psychodynamic perspective. Think of him as the grandfather of psychology. He was the first clinical psychologist, the first person to treat mental disorders. And he created a method of treatment called psychoanalysis. And what does this treatment do? Lay down on the couch and he tries to get into your unconscious mind somehow by analyzing your dreams or hypnotizing you, things like that. Okay, I'm not asking you to write this down. Names are not that important in this course, but I do want you to know that psychoanalysis, psychodynamic, is about getting into your unconscious. Okay, so think of an iceberg. Psychoanalytic perspective says that your unconscious mind is like what's beneath the surface. Why the iceberg? Because the iceberg beneath the surface is much bigger than the tip of the iceberg, which is on top. I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is their perspective. Now, the unconscious, just think of it as things that we're just not aware of. Okay, like you may have a crush on somebody and you're just not aware of it. You may resent your sister or your mother and you're just not aware of it. That's your unconscious. It doesn't have to be that deep. Okay. Actually, I think this is on the exam. The id is like your animalistic impulses. Hold on. All right, I just double checked. This is not on the exam, so I'm going to fast forward through this. Okay, this is important. What are defense mechanisms, also called the ego defense mechanisms? So think of an animal. Think of an animal's defense mechanisms. What are they protecting themselves from? Predators. But what are humans protecting themselves from? Unpleasant thoughts. We don't like to feel bad. We like to feel good. So what we do is when we feel bad, there are things that we do to make ourselves feel better. Okay, and this is one of my favorite topics to teach, just so you know. We don't like to feel bad, so we have these defense mechanisms that we like to do to make ourselves feel better. Sigmund Freud came up with 8 of them. I'm going to teach you 9, but I'm pretty sure there's only 8 on the exam. Okay? Some of these you know, some of these you don't. Okay, repression. Think of the word, notice I underline the word press. Something bad happens to you or something unpleasant that you don't want to think about. So what do? You press it down into the unconscious. You try to forget it. Let's say you're assaulted and you don't want to remember it. Okay, or so you press it down into your unconscious and now you don't remember it. In modern day, we call this dissociative amnesia, but Freud called it repression. When you take traumatic thoughts and you press it down into the unconscious and you don't remember it. Okay? So think of it this way. So let's say, now this is what Sigmund Freud said, and I'm not saying this is true. He said that boys are sexually attracted to their mothers, which is ridiculous, kind of ridiculous. And he said that we don't remember feeling this way because it's uncomfortable, so we press it down into the unconscious. And we don't remember feeling sexually attracted to our mothers. Okay? Anyway, moving right along. Rationalization. We all do that. Write this down. We all do this. We do something sinful or something that we perceive to be uncomfortable. And then we try to convince ourselves that what we did wasn't that bad. So let's say you're late for school. And then what you do is you look around and you notice everyone else who is also late for school, and then you don't feel bad about yourself. Think about in my class when I give a Friday assignment and there's only one student who does it, that means everybody is looking around the room saying, well, I'm not the only one who's not working. And then it makes people feel good about themselves. That's why good schools get better and bad schools get worse. Because when you're at a really good school and you look around and you see everybody else is doing their work, then you're like, oh man, I better do my work. Okay, so you're not able to rationalize by saying, well, everyone else is doing it. That's also conformity, but you get my point. Everyone else is doing it is a very common form of rationalization. Or you can say, it's not that important. You could do that. That's rationalization. It's just not that important. You steal a candy bar from Walmart and you tell yourself, Walmart is an evil billion-dollar corporation. So you're just trying to make yourself feel better from stealing. Okay? Everybody else is doing it. Doesn't make it right, though. That's just something you're telling yourself. Okay? All right, regression. Acting immature in the face of immense stress. How many times have you ever been under a lot of stress and you just start acting like a child? Like, I've been in very long, stressful teacher meetings, and I'll just start throwing paper balls at people in the meeting. I mean that. Or I'll start sending memes to another teacher, just laughing. Anything that makes you giggle, or just stupid jokes like that's what she said. Stupid jokes like that, immature jokes. We do it to deal with stress. Soldiers crying for mommy on the battlefield. Or fighting with your wife, and after several hours, just start going, yo, mama, I can't hear you. La, 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 I can't hear you. La, 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 la. Acting immature. Okay. Moving right along. Displacement. Place. Dis means wrong. Wrong place. It's when you take your anger out on something or somebody that is not the source of your anger. Dallas Cowboys lose a football game. And what do fans do? They hit their TV and tear up their TV. Or you have a bad day, so you go home and you kick your dog. Kick your dog. Well, your dog didn't do anything to you. Or how about you're playing a video game and you keep dying, and then your little brother comes along and touches you at the wrong moment, and you're like, what? And you yell at your little brother. Well, you're the one who keeps dying on your video game. Why are you taking it on your brother? That's displacement. Dis means wrong, place means place. So if you get mad at your teacher, you go and pee on their car. Well, you're the one that didn't study. Why are you taking it out on my car? Okay, displacement. Imagine a teacher who's fighting with her husband and she takes it out on the class. You know, I think we've all been through that at some point. Projection. You have a flaw, and then you accuse other people of having that flaw. Let's say you are selfish, but then you accuse everyone else of being selfish. You need to lose weight, so you tell everyone else they need to lose weight. If your girlfriend starts looking through your phone accusing you of cheating, maybe she's the one who's cheating on you. She's taking her own flaws and putting it on you. She's projecting it like a projector onto you. So you are selfish, so you accuse your boyfriend of being selfish, or you accuse your friends of being selfish. So think of you're like a projector projecting your own flaws on other people. Okay. Moving right along, you're a racist, so you accuse other people of being racist. Okay. Reaction formation, acting the opposite of how you feel. This one's not so bad, but it is a defense mechanism, and it can be a good thing. Fake it till you make it. That can be a good thing, but it is a defense mechanism. True story, I applied for a part-time job this summer and I didn't get it. So within minutes, I'm like, screw them. I don't want to work for them anyway. I'm going to have so much more time on my hands. I'm so busy anyway. It was like immediate. When I didn't get the job, immediately I started, this kicked in and it worked really well. And it was immediate and it was very effective. Fake it till you make it. Here's a great animation, a GIF. She lost and she's like, nope, I am not going to sit here and cry. And I think that can be a really good thing. Okay. America's Top Model, I believe that's the show. Okay. When you break up and then you're like, I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I will survive. You know, and you're like, and you do all that, screw him. You have your breakup and you're like, screw him. He's a jerk anyway. And then, or she's a hoe or something like that. And you act the opposite of how you truly feel. Okay. You hate your dad. So what do? You go to your dad and say, I love you, Dad. You're the most awesome dad ever. Okay. Denial is not a river in Egypt. Denial is when you refuse to believe the obvious truth. It's the first stage when you find out that you're going to die. Doctor says you have 6 months to live, and you're like, no, you must have made a mistake. No. Or your kid has a learning disability, and you're like, no, there's nothing wrong with my kid. No, my kid's fine. Maybe not. Okay. I don't have a drinking problem when you obviously do. That's why in a 12-step program, the first thing you do is you admit that you have a problem to get over the denial. Sublimation. Take something bad about yourself and turn it into something positive. Let's say you used to have a drug problem and you did some bad things. So what do? You become a drug counselor, assuming you don't have a record. Or let's say you hate your dad and you have an anger problem. So what do? You become an athlete and you join the football team. Okay. I've never seen this on the test, but the most common example would be to turn to athletics to do some positive with your rage. So don't get this mixed up with displacement. That's a bad thing. Sublimation is a good thing. You have an anger problem, go take it out in wrestling or football. Okay. And compensation is not on the test, but it's when we overdo it, one thing to compensate for some other flaw. Think of why a Chihuahua is always the meanest dog, because they're small. So they have to compensate for their small stature. You know, I was in a rough neighborhood, and anytime a group of bullies came along, it was always the shortest one that always started smack with me. When I was a teacher in a really rough school, it was always the short guys that always gave me a hard time, never the big guys. Anyway, moving right along. All right, so according to Freud in the psychodynamic perspective, which is the most important factor in personality, the answer is the unconscious. Okay. All right, moving right along. All right, which one of these is best illustrates regression? The answer is, now remember, regression is acting immature. So now I know that seems like displacement, and I understand, but it's okay. But the word temper tantrum implies that it's immature. Again, that A could be displacement too, but that's not really the issue. Just choose the best example. Okay. All right, read this. All right, the answer is psychoanalytic. Anytime you see the word unconscious, I want you to think psychoanalytic or psychodynamic, the theories of Sigmund Freud. Okay. All right. All right. The answer is displacement. Takes out his anger. Takes out his anger. I meant to there's only 4 answer choices. I meant to take one out. Oh well, moving right along. That's displacement. All right, read that. The answer is, so Jerry is accusing other people of doing the same crap that he's doing. So that is projection. All right. Parents refuse to accept. Refuse to accept. The answer is denial. My daughter ain't depressed. She don't need therapy. I'm a good parent. Well, maybe you are. I don't know. All right, moving right along. All right, a man who has numerous reasons to hate his mother instead lavishes her with unrealistic amounts of attention and love. I love you, Mom, but even though you hate her. The answer is acting the opposite, reaction formation. All right, we're almost done. By the way, the psychodynamic psychologists, they use projective tests. Why? Because these access the unconscious mind. Okay, so that is something you need to understand about the psychodynamic psychoanalytic approach. All right, write this down. So, what is criticism? As scientists, we need to understand that Freud kind of just made this up. Freud did not have scientific laboratories. He did not use science at all. So his theories are not empirical. His theories are not scientific. There's no hardcore evidence for most of what he says. And his theories are based on rich Jewish women in Austria during the late 1800s. So he doesn't have a good random random selection of people around the world. He didn't study rural Chinese people. He didn't study rich Brazilians. He only studied basically Jewish women in Austria. So his theories are very sexist and they're not very multicultural. Okay? So he's not a scientist. Now, there are a few good things. I don't know if you really need to write this down, but he was the first psychologist to say that our childhood experiences do affect us today. That is worthwhile. While there's not a lot of evidence of the unconscious mind, information outside of our awareness does influence us. And we've got the fMRIs to prove it. And his defense mechanisms are pretty good. Okay, they are pretty good. We've seen them all happen. Okay, that is it. Thank you very much.